Yuna sat at the back of the classroom, her fingers trembling as she tried to solve the tactical problem on her display screen. Around her, students from dozens of different species worked confidently through their assignments. The Vraxians with their 4 arms moved across multiple screens at once. The Crystallians, beings made of living crystal, calculated solutions with mathematical precision. Even the slug-like Thoraxians completed their work faster than she could. She was human. That meant she was weak. At least, that's what everyone believed. "Time's up," announced Professor Tajan, his metallic Moltorian voice echoing through the chamber. His species looked like walking suits of ancient armor, their faces hidden behind permanent masks. "Submit your answers." Yuna pressed the button with a sinking feeling. She knew she had failed again. "Pathetic," someone whispered behind her. She didn't need to turn around to know it was Minho. The tall, Vraxian student never missed a chance to remind her of her inadequacy. His blue skin seemed to shimmer with amusement as he leaned toward his friends. The human failed again. Why is she even here? Xiaoa, a Crystallian girl whose body refracted light into rainbow patterns, laughed softly. My younger sibling could solve that problem. It was basic fleet positioning. Yuna kept her eyes down. She had learned that responding only made things worse. The Galactic Academy Station Harmony 7 was supposed to be the finest educational institution in known space, where the best and brightest from every species learned together. For most students, being accepted here was the greatest honor of their lives. For Yuna, it was a daily nightmare. "All right, let's move to combat simulations," Professor Tajan said. "Everyone, to the training hall." The class filed out, and Yuna followed at the back. Deho, a Thoraxian boy whose slug-like body left a trail of protective slime, deliberately moved into her path. She had to stop suddenly to avoid bumping into him. "Oh, sorry," he said, not sounding sorry at all. "Didn't see you there. You're so small and forgettable." More laughter. Yuna walked around him and continued down the corridor. The station's walls were transparent in places, showing the vast darkness of space beyond. Sometimes she stared out at those stars and wondered why she felt so empty inside. Like something important had been cut out of her. The training hall was enormous, with holographic projectors that could simulate any combat scenario. Students paired up, but no one chose Yuna. They never did. Finally, Professor Tajan assigned her to work with a training drone. "Begin," he commanded. The simulation activated. Yuna found herself on a virtual battlefield, armed with a standard plasma rifle. Enemy targets appeared, moving fast and unpredictable. She aimed carefully, trying to remember her training. She fired, missed, fired again, missed again. 20 seconds, the computer announced. 0 hits. Performance failed. The simulation ended. Around her, other students were succeeding easily. Minho had achieved a perfect score. Xiao was close behind. Even the younger students were doing better than her. "Yuna," Professor Tajan called. His voice was stern, but was there something else there? Concern? No. That was impossible. "Stay after class." Great. Now she would get a lecture about her poor performance. The other students left, still laughing and talking about the useless human. When they were alone, Professor Tajun approached her. Up close, his armored body was intimidating, easily 3 times her size. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Fine, sir," she lied. "Any headaches? Strange dreams? Memory gaps?" Yuna hesitated. She did have dreams sometimes, violent and confusing. And there were things she couldn't remember, like where she had lived before coming to the academy 2 years ago. Everything before her 12th birthday was just blank, like someone had erased part of her life. "No, sir," she said. He stared at her for a long moment. She couldn't see his face behind his mask, but she felt his eyes on her. Finally, He nodded. Dismissed. But Yuna, if anything unusual happens, you come to me immediately. Understood? Yes, sir. She hurried out of the training hall, confused by the strange conversation. Professor Taejun had never shown much interest in her before, except to mark her failures. Back in her dormitory room, Yuna collapsed on her bed. Her roommate, a friendly Luminary girl named Haijin, who glowed with soft bioluminescence, was already there, studying. Rough day? Haijin asked sympathetically. She was one of the few students who treated Yuna kindly. The usual, Yuna replied. She went to the bathroom to change for sleep. As she pulled off her uniform, something caught her eye in the mirror. On her left shoulder was a scar, jagged and old. She had noticed it before, but never thought much about it. Tonight, something was different. She touched the scar, and it glowed. Just for a second, a faint blue light pulsed under her skin. Yuna jerked her hand back, heart pounding. She touched it again. Nothing happened. Had she imagined it? She stared at her reflection. In the mirror, she looked like what she was, a small, unremarkable human girl with dark hair and tired eyes. Someone who couldn't even pass basic combat training. Someone who everyone mocked at. So why did the scar feel like it was trying to tell her something? Why did it feel like a warning? The field trip to the Galactic War Museum should have been educational. For Yuna, it became something else entirely. The massive station orbited a dead planet, its halls filled with artifacts from thousands of years of conflict. Professor Taejun led the class through exhibits showing ancient weapons, battle armor, and holographic recreations of famous battles. Most students found it boring. They lived in a time of relative peace, where wars were rare and small. This section covers the Autumn Rebellion. Their guide, an elderly Kintern with scales that had faded to gray, explained. 15 years ago, 3 of the most powerful empires in this sector fell within 18 months. The Kashrex Empire, the Moltorian Dominion, and the Vrexian Confederacy all collapsed. Minho's antennae twitched with interest. His family was Vrassian. The fall of their empire was still a sore subject. The rebellions were led by someone known only as the Reaper. The guide continued. No one knows their real identity. After the final battle at Kashrex Prime, they simply vanished. Many believe they died in the fighting. The guide led them to a display case containing weapons recovered from rebellion battlefields. Yuna walked past plasma cannons and force blades, barely paying attention. Then she saw it, a modified plasma blade, its handle wrapped in warm black cloth. The blade itself was deactivated, but even dormant, it looked deadly. Something about its design was unusual, personal. Like someone had customized it over years of use. Yuna stopped walking. Her vision blurred. The museum faded away. She was somewhere else, somewhere hot and smoky. Screams filled the air. She looked down and saw her hands, smaller than they were now, gripping that same plasma blade. It was active, burning bright blue. Blood dripped from its edge. "Move forward," someone shouted. The Reaper cleared the path. The Reaper. They were talking about her. Yuna? Haijin's glowing hand touched her shoulder. "Are you okay? You look pale." The vision shattered. Yuna was back in the museum, breathing hard. Several classmates were staring at her. "I'm fine," she managed to say. Just felt dizzy for a moment. But she wasn't fine. For the rest of the tour, fragments of memories kept flashing through her mind. A command center exploding. Soldiers running. Her voice, younger but harder, giving orders that sent thousands into battle. And always that blade in her hands, cutting through enemies like they were nothing. That night, the nightmares began in full force. She dreamed of battlefields under alien suns. She dreamed of making impossible decisions, sacrificing hundreds to save thousands. She dreamed of her empire's capital burning while she walked through its streets, blade in hand, as citizens screamed and soldiers fell before her. She dreamed of blood. So much blood. Yuna woke up screaming. Haijin was beside her immediately, her bioluminescent body providing soft light in the dark room. Another bad dream? Haijin asked gently. Yeah, Yuna whispered. Her hands were shaking. Just a dream. But it hadn't felt like a dream. It had felt like a memory. The next day, everything changed. Minho and his friends found Yuna during the break period. She was in the library, trying to research the Autumn Rebellion, searching for anything that might explain her strange visions. Hey, Hyun, Minho called out. Daeho and Sayala were with him, along with two other students she didn't know well. We've got a fun idea. Yuna closed her display screen. I'm busy. Too busy for a little training? Sayala asked sweetly. We thought we'd help you improve your combat skills. You know, since you're so terrible at them. Yuna should have said no. She should have walked away. But pride, stupid pride, made her follow them. They led her to an old section of the station, where decommissioned training facilities were stored. One ancient combat simulator sat in the corner, covered in dust. This is a classic model, Minho explained. Much simpler than the new ones. Even you should be able to handle it. Something felt wrong, but Yuna stepped inside the simulator anyway. The door sealed behind her. Through the window, she saw Minho and the others at the control panel. They were laughing. Have fun, Daeho called. The simulator activated. Yuna expected a simple training program. Instead, the system announced, lethal mode engaged. Live fire authorized. What? Yuna shouted. Turn it off. Outside, the students weren't laughing anymore. Minho was frantically pressing buttons. It won't respond. The controls are locked. The first training drone appeared, its weapons very real and very deadly. It fired. Yuna dove behind cover, her heart racing. This wasn't a simulation. If she got hit, she would actually die. Another drone appeared. Then another. They coordinated their attack, trying to pin her down. Yuna's mind raced. She had to survive. She had to fight. Then something inside her shifted. Her body moved before her conscious mind could catch up. She rolled out of cover, grabbed a piece of debris, and threw it with perfect accuracy. It struck one drone's sensor array, blinding it. She was already moving, using the disabled drone as a shield while she disarmed another. Within seconds, she had a weapon. Her hands knew exactly how to hold it, how to aim it, how to make every shot count. The drones fell one by one, taken apart with surgical precision. Outside the simulator, the students watched in stunned silence. The clumsy human girl who couldn't hit a stationary target was moving like a trained killer. No, not trained. Expert. Beyond expert. The final drone fell. The simulator powered down. The door opened. Yuna stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by destroyed machines, breathing hard but unhurt. Her hands still gripped the weapon with professional ease. She looked up and met Minho's eyes. For the first time, she saw fear there. How did you do that? He whispered. Yuna looked at her hands, at the weapon she held like she had been born with it. She had no answer. Or rather, she had an answer she was terrified to accept. I don't know, she lied. But deep down, in a place that was starting to remember, she knew exactly how. The incident was officially declared a malfunction. The old simulator had somehow activated its lethal protocols without authorization. No one was blamed. No one was punished. But everyone who had been there knew the truth. Yuna was not what she appeared to be. 3 days later, a woman arrived at the academy. Her name was Jiwon, and she claimed to be a safety inspector following up on the simulator incident. But Yuna noticed how the security guards straightened when she passed. how Professor Tajin's entire body language changed when he spoke to her. This was no simple Inspector. G1 was galactic intelligence. I need to see all records of the incident, G1 told the academy director. And I need to interview the students involved. Yuna tried to avoid her, but that was impossible. When G1 wanted to talk to someone, they talked. Sit, G1 commanded when Yuna entered the interview room. The woman was tall and sharp-featured, her eyes missing nothing. Tell me what happened in the simulator. It malfunctioned, Yuna said carefully. The drones attacked me. I defended myself. With skills far beyond your training level, G1 said. According to your academy records, you consistently fail combat assessments. Yet you've disabled 6 military-grade training drones in under 2 minutes. Interesting contradiction. Yuna said nothing. Do you know what I think? G1 leaned forward. I think you've had training. Extensive training. The kind that leaves marks on muscle memory, even when the mind forgets. I don't know what you mean. We'll see. G1 dismissed her with a wave. That night, Yuna couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about G1's words. Muscle memory. What if her body remembered things her mind had forgotten? She found Haijin in the common room, studying as usual. The luminary girl looked up and smiled. Can I ask you something? Yuna said quietly. Something strange? Always, Haijin replied, closing her books. Yuna sat down beside her. Can you help me access the restricted archives? The ones about the Autumn Rebellion? Haijin's glow flickered with surprise. Those are classified. Why do you want to see them? I think I'm connected to it somehow. I keep having these dreams, these memories. And at the museum, when I saw that weapon, I knew it. I knew how to use it. Haijin studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. My family has high clearance. I can get us in, but we have to be careful. They waited until late-night cycle, when most students were asleep. Haijin's genetic signature granted them access to the restricted database. Files appeared on the screen, thousands of them. Battle reports, casualty lists, strategic analyses, and photographs. Yuna scrolled through images from the rebellion. Most showed destruction and death, but some showed the rebels themselves. Freedom fighters, terrorists, revolutionaries. What they were called depended on who was telling the story. Then she found it. A photograph taken from a distance. Blurry, but clear enough. A figure in dark combat armor, face hidden behind a mask, standing on top of a destroyed war machine. In one hand, they held a modified plasma blade. On their left shoulder, visible where the armor had been damaged, was a distinctive scar. Jagged. Old. Exactly like Yuna's. No, Yuna whispered. That's not possible. What is it? Haijin asked, then saw the image. She looked at Yuna, then back at the screen. Her glow intensified with shock. Your scar. It's the same. They searched for more information. According to the files, the Reaper had been young, possibly a teenager, though exact details were unknown. They had appeared suddenly at the start of the rebellion, already fully trained and impossibly skilled. Some reports claimed they were a child soldier who had escaped from one of the empires. Others said they were something else, something created specifically for war. After the final battle, the Reaper had vanished. Most assumed they had died. Some files suggested otherwise, mentioning a classified agreement, a negotiated retirement, memory suppression therapy. This is you, Haijin breathed. You're the Reaper. I can't be, Yuna said, but her voice shook. I'm nobody. I'm just a student who can't even pass combat training. Who can't pass, or who's pretending she can't? Before Yuna could answer, alarms blared throughout the station. Security breach. The automated system announced. All students to safe rooms immediately. They ran into the corridor. Other students were emerging from their rooms, confused and frightened. Then the lights went out, replaced by emergency red lighting. "This way," Haijin called, pulling Yuna toward the nearest safe room. They didn't make it. 3 figures emerged from the shadows ahead, wearing combat armor marked with the symbol of the old Kashreks, Empire, assassins. They had come for someone. They had come for Yuna. "Target acquired," one said. Raising a weapon, Yuna's body moved on pure instinct. She shoved Haijin aside, grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall, and threw it at the lead assassin's head. It hit with crushing force. She was already moving, closing the distance before they could react. The second assassin swung a blade at her. She caught his wrist, twisted it with a motion that was pure muscle memory, and took the weapon. The blade felt right in her hands, natural, like it belonged there. She killed him, with it, quick, efficient, no hesitation. The third assassin fired. Yuna moved impossibly fast, the plasma bolt missing her by centimeters. She threw the blade. It embedded itself in his throat. 3 assassins. 10 seconds. All dead. Yuna stood over the bodies, breathing hard. Her hands were covered in blood. She should have been horrified. She should have been sick. Instead, she felt calm, focused. This was familiar. This was who really was. Students had gathered at both ends of the corridor, watching in horror. Minho was there, his forearms hanging limp in shock. Ciala's crystalline body had gone completely clear with fear. Deho had retreated into his protective shell. They had called her weak, pathetic, useless. Now they knew the truth. Security forces arrived, weapons raised. Professor Taejun was with them, and behind him, Ji-won. "Stand down," Ji-won commanded the guards. She walked slowly toward Yuna, studying her. "You remember now, don't you?" Yuna looked at her bloody hands, then at Ji-won. "Not everything, but enough. Enough to know what you are." "Yes," Yuna whispered. "Enough to know what I am." The Reaper had awakened. They took Yuna to a secured room deep in the station's administrative section. The walls were reinforced. The door could withstand explosives, and armed guards stood outside. They weren't there to protect her. They were there to protect everyone else. Ji-won sat across from her, a holographic display between them. Professor Taejun stood by the door, his armored form motionless, waiting. "I'm going to tell you the truth now," Ji-won said. "All of it. You deserve that much." She activated the display. Images appeared. Battlefields, burning cities. A young girl, maybe 13 years old, holding a weapon too big for her small frame. "Your real name is Yuna. That part is true. But 16 years ago, you were taken by the Kashreks Empire during a raid on a human colony. They were experimenting, trying to create perfect soldiers. Humans, they discovered, had something other species lacked. You called it determination, stubbornness, the refusal to quit, even when everything said you should." Yuna watched the images change. She saw herself growing older, harder, training, fighting, killing. They broke you down and rebuilt you into a weapon. But they made a mistake. They gave you too much freedom, too much ability to think. When you were 14, you escaped. And you didn't just run. You found others who had been hurt by the empires. You organized them, led them. The images showed rebel camps, planning sessions, a teenage girl standing before hundreds of fighters, giving orders with absolute authority. The Autumn Rebellion wasn't one uprising. It was dozens, all coordinated by you. You taught them strategy, taught them how to turn their weaknesses into strengths, how to make the Empire's own size work against them. You were brilliant, terrifying, unstoppable. Ji-won paused, letting that sink in. In 80 months, you toppled 3 empires. Millions died, but billions were freed. You were 15 years old. Why don't I remember? Yuna asked quietly. Because we made a deal, Jiwan said. After the final battle at Kashrek's Prime, the new Galactic Council had a problem. You were a hero to some, a war criminal to others. You had led attacks that killed civilians, given orders that resulted in massive destruction. But you had also freed countless slaves and ended tyrannical regimes. She leaned forward. They wanted to execute you, but too many people would have rioted. So they offered you a choice: memory suppression and a new life, or trial and almost certain death. I chose to forget, Yuna whispered. You chose peace. Professor Taejun spoke for the first time. His voice was gentle. You told me you were tired, that you had given everything you had. You just wanted to be a normal person. Yuna looked at him. You knew. This whole time, you knew who I was. I was your second in command during the rebellion, he said, stepping forward. I watched over you here, making sure the treatment worked, making sure you got the normal life you wanted. But the memory suppression is failing, Jiwon said. It was always temporary. The trauma was too deep, the skills too ingrained. We knew eventually you would start to remember. The display changed again, showing recent intelligence reports. And now the remnants of the empires you destroyed have found you. They want revenge. The current Galactic Council wants you eliminated before you can destabilize things again. You're the most dangerous person alive, Yuna, and everyone knows it now. What happens to me? Yuna asked. That depends, Jiwon said. Do you want to be the student or the reaper? Before Yuna could answer, alarms blared again. The guards outside burst in. We've got incoming ships. Military grade. They're demanding we surrender the target. Jiwon cursed. They're not even pretending anymore. How many ships? 12, fully armed. They've given us 1 hour to hand over the girl, or they'll destroy the station. Yuna stood up. Then give me to them. Don't let innocent people die because of me. Sit down, Professor Taejung commanded. I didn't watch over you for 2 years just to let you walk into an execution. He's right, said a voice from the doorway. Haijin stood there, her glow intensified by anger. Behind her were Minho, Seala, and Daeho. More students were gathering in the corridor. What are you doing here? Jiwon demanded. This area is restricted. We came to help, Minho said. His voice was uncertain, but determined. We heard what's happening. They want to kill Yuna because of what she did years ago. What she did? Jiwon said. Do you know what she did? She killed thousands. She destroyed entire fleets. She's not the helpless student you knew. No, Seala said, her crystalline body gleaming. She's the person who freed my grandmother from the Vrexian work camps. My family exists because of the Reaper. Daeho moved forward. My species was enslaved by the Moltorian Dominion. Every Thoraxian alive today owes their freedom to the rebellion. To her, more students spoke up. So many had families who had been helped by the rebellion. Species that had been freed. Colonies that had been liberated. I was wrong, Minho said, looking at Yuna directly. I called you weak because you're human. Because you're small. But you're the strongest person I've ever met. You carried the weight of entire worlds on your shoulders when you were younger than we are now. Yuna felt tears building. I'm also the person who got millions killed, who ordered strikes on civilian targets, who did terrible things for what I thought was the greater good. And you spent 2 years trying to forget that, Haijin said gently, moving to stand beside her. Trying to be normal, to be kind, to be the person you wanted to be instead of what war made you. That takes more courage than any battle. The communication system activated. A harsh voice filled the room. Academy Station Harmony 7. This is Battle Group Vengeance. You have 45 minutes remaining. Surrender the Reaper or be destroyed. Jiwon looked at Yuna. It's your choice. Surrender, run, or fight. But choose fast. Yuna closed her eyes. She thought about the girl she had been, broken and remade into a weapon. She thought about the commander she had become, brilliant and brutal. She thought about the student she had tried to be, peaceful and normal. Then she thought about the people around her. Students who should hate her but were offering to stand with her. A mentor who had protected her for years. Friends who saw her not as a monster, but as someone who had done monstrous things for desperate reasons. She opened her eyes. They were different now. Harder. Focused. The Reaper looking out at the world. I'll fight, she said quietly. But not like before. Not with needless death. We end this smart. Professor Taijan's body language shifted to something like pride. There's the commander I remember. We have 45 minutes, Yuna said, her voice taking on an authority that made everyone listen. Here's what we're going to do. The Reaper had returned, but this time she wouldn't be alone. The evacuation began immediately. Thousands of students and staff fled to emergency shuttles, heading for nearby stations. Within 30 minutes, the academy was nearly empty. But not completely empty. Yuna stood in the main observation deck, watching the 12 warships hold position around the station. Behind her stood those who had chosen to stay. Professor Taejung, Jiwon, Haijin, Minho, Siala, Daeho, and 20 other students who refused to leave. It was foolish. It was brave. It was exactly what she had hoped they wouldn't do. You should have evacuated, she said without turning around. So should you, Minho replied. His voice was steadier now, determined. I'm a target. You're just making yourselves targets too. Good, Siala said. Targets together are harder to hit than targets alone. You taught us that in tactical class, remember? Yuna smiled despite everything. I failed that class. You pretended to fail, Haijin corrected. Big difference. The communication system crackled. Time's up, Academy Station. Surrender the Reaper now, or we open fire. Yuna activated the response channel. This is Yuna. I'm here. I'm not running, but I'm also not surrendering. Then you'll die. Maybe, she said calmly. But here's what's going to happen first. I'm broadcasting this conversation to every major news network in the sector. Right now, billions of people are watching. They're about to see you destroy an educational station to kill one teenager. Silence from the ships. You want revenge for what I did 15 years ago. Yuna continued. Fine, I understand that. But these people behind me have nothing to do with it. Attack this station, and you're no different than the empires I destroyed. You become the tyrants. You're a war criminal. The voice shouted back. You killed millions. I did, Yuna said quietly. I carry that weight every day. But I was also a child soldier fighting against genocide and slavery. The galaxy isn't simple. Revenge isn't justice. If you want me dead, come take me. But leave everyone else out of it. No. Professor Taejun stepped forward to the communication panel. If you want her, you go through all of us. I'm Minho, son of Rax General Talon, Minho announced. My father died fighting the Reaper. I have more right to revenge than any of you, but I choose to stand with her. One by one, the students identified themselves. Children of the empires, children of the freed, children of every side of the old war. All choosing the same thing. Yuna felt something in her chest tighten. She had spent 2 years alone, keeping everyone at distance, afraid of what she was. Now, when it mattered most, she wasn't alone. Final warning, the voice said. but there was uncertainty now. Stand down or what? G1 cut in. I'm Galactic Intelligence Agent G1. I have evidence that your battle group was assembled illegally, using funds from banned organizations. You fire on this station, and you'll have every legitimate government in the sector hunting you. We have our orders. Then follow them, Una said. But know this. You attack, and I stop pretending to be weak. I stop hiding. The Reaper comes back fully, and I won't stop with just you. Every organization, every government, every person who wants to continue the old wars instead of building something new. I'll dismantle all of it. She stepped closer to the window, visible to the ships outside. Or you can leave. Tell whoever sent you that they had their chance. That the Reaper is retired, trying to build a better life. And as long as she's left alone, she stays retired. The ships didn't move. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then, slowly, one ship turned away. Then another. Then all 12 were leaving, their engines burning as they jumped to hyperspace. It was over. The observation deck erupted in cheers. Students hugged each other, relief and joy mixing together. Hyjin's glow intensified until the entire room seemed filled with light. Even Professor Taejin seemed to relax, his armored shoulders dropping slightly, but Una didn't celebrate. She watched the empty space where the ships had been and knew the truth. This wasn't over. It would never really be over. There would always be someone seeking revenge, someone afraid of what she could do, someone wanting to use her. What now? Ji-won asked, reading her thoughts. Now we make a new deal, Una said. I can't go back to pretending I'm just a student. Everyone knows the truth. But I also can't be the Reaper again, not like before. She turned to face the others. I'll serve the Galactic Council as a last resort. When there's tyranny rising, when there's no other option, I'll be the weapon they need. But the rest of the time, I'm just Una. Just a person trying to live a normal life. The Council will never agree to that, Ji-won said. You're too dangerous to leave unsupervised. Then they can try to eliminate me, Una said simply. And we'll see how that works out for them. Ji-won stared at her, then laughed. It was tired and bitter, but genuine. You're still the Reaper after all. Still making the powerful nervous. Good, Una said. Someone should. The evacuation shuttles began returning. Students flooded back into the station, celebrating their survival. News reports were already spreading across the sector. The Reaper was alive. The Reaper had been found. The Reaper had stood down a battle group without firing a shot. In the days that followed, everything changed. The Galactic Council sent representatives to negotiate. They agreed to Una's terms, though they weren't happy about it. She would be registered, monitored, but free to live her life unless called upon. The Academy struggled with what to do. Some wanted her expelled. Others wanted her honored. In the end, they settled on letting her stay, but transferring her to advanced tactical courses. No more pretending to fail. Minho approached her one afternoon in the dining hall. He stood awkwardly, his forearms fidgeting. I wanted to apologize. For everything I said. Everything I did. You didn't know, Una said. That's not an excuse. I was cruel because I thought you were weak. That says more about me than you. Una studied him. You stayed. When you could have evacuated, you stayed. That says even more. He managed a small smile. Friends? Friends, she agreed. Hyjin found her that evening, sitting alone in the observation deck, watching the stars. The luminary girl sat beside her, providing gentle light in the darkness. Do you regret it? Hyjin asked. Remembering who you were? Yes and no, Una said honestly. I liked being no one. Just a student? Just a girl. But I was lying to myself. This is who I am. I was a weapon, then a commander, then a student. Now I'm all of those things. That must be exhausting. It is. Yuna smiled. But at least I'm not alone anymore. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching distant stars. Somewhere out there, people were afraid of the Reaper. Somewhere, people celebrated her. Somewhere, people plotted revenge. But here, on this station, among friends she had never expected to have, Yuna was just herself. All the complicated, contradictory parts of herself. 3 months later, the Galactic Council called. A situation had developed on the Outer Rim. A warlord was enslaving colonies, and conventional forces couldn't stop him. They needed someone who understood how to fight impossible odds. They needed the Reaper. Yuna stood before the Council's holographic representatives. They expected her to refuse, to demand more concessions, to make it difficult. Instead, she just nodded. Send me the details. I'll handle it. Just like that. One representative asked, surprised. You're asking me to stop someone from hurting innocent people, Yuna said. That's what I do. That's what I've always done. Everything else, the politics and the fear and the revenge, that's just noise. She ended the call and turned to find her friends waiting outside. They knew where she was going, what she was going to do. Come back safe, Hyjin said. Hugging her. Don't do anything too crazy, Minho added. Define crazy, Yuna said with a small smile. Professor Taijin walked with her to the shuttle bay. You've changed, he observed. The old Reaper carried the weight alone. This one has people who care about her. Is that weakness? Yuna asked. No, he said. It's what makes you stronger than you were. Yuna boarded the shuttle. As it pulled away from the station, she looked back at the academy, at the life she had built. She wasn't the broken weapon anymore. She wasn't the lonely commander. She wasn't the pretend student. She was Yuna, the person who had overthrown empires. The person who had endured mockery while hiding her past. The person who had friends who saw all of her and chose to stand beside her anyway. And she was going to make sure no one else had to become what she had been. No more child soldiers. No more tyranny. No more empires that thought they could crush the weak. The shuttle jumped to hyperspace, carrying the Reaper toward another battle. But this time, she knew she had something to come back to. This time, she had a home.